Before we jump into the next episode of the Tiny House Project, I wanted to share one of the first nice surprises the tiny house has given us. We have a much bigger lot than we first thought. My son and father-in-law went searching for the property pins and got the tax records. First, the lot is about 30 feet wider than we thought, but the even better news is it's a lot deeper than we thought. We thought the lot ended about here. That's about 105 feet back. Our lot is actually 308 feet deep. That's more like here. There's a lot of overgrown land back there, and it will take a lot of work, but it's pretty exciting. We might even have a water view back there somewhere. Okay, let's get back to our episode about siding. Already in progress. We're using Hardie board cement siding planks. I've used it now on several projects, and it's pretty great in this climate. The original siding on the tiny house was very picturesque, but not very good at actually keeping out air and water, and as we recently learned, very flammable. It's still not done, but I thought it was time for an update. All the walls are at some point in the process, so let's review. Each wall starts by doing demolition, and the difficulty varies pretty greatly, almost board to board. Boards have been put on with different types of nails, screws, and caulking. Combine that with the summer heat, it's a slow process. After a few days of overestimating the amount we could clear and close back up in one day, we settled on doing a 4x8 section at a time. Why that size? That's a full sheet of plywood. We would mark out the section to be removed with a little bit of extra space to make sure the plywood's sheathing would fit. Even I can eventually learn lessons. All it takes is removing what you think is enough, lifting the heavy plywood up and realizing you have 3 different places where you need to trim off half an inch, so extra space. We would remove the siding with saws, hammers, pry bars, brute strength, pretty much whatever worked. More than once I spent half an hour or more to remove one board, only to remove the rest of the section in the same amount of time. Once we clear a section, we put up the plywood sheathing. These sheets are pretty heavy and awkward to handle, so I made a few 3D printed tools to help with the process. For the bottom row, I made these angled hooks that had a screw that came through the bottom. That way I could put the hooks in the wall, lining them up where the bottom of the plywood needed to be. Then I could put the plywood up, put a couple of screws in the top of the board, and still back out the screw from the bottom hook and remove it. For the higher rows, I used a similar hook, but these lined up with the top of the lower board. That way I didn't have to worry about dropping the board. For the top sections, I would have a couple of sets of hooks. I could put the board on the first set, go up to the first level of the scaffolding. Then I could get the board from there to the next set of hooks, and finally to the top level where the board belonged. I'm not sure how I would have gotten the plywood all the way to the top otherwise. After the plywood is finished on a wall, it was time for the Tyvek. Rolling out a 9-foot tall roll is difficult, especially when the wind was blowing. I'm sure there's a better way to do this, but we got it done so far. After that, it's time for siding. We've done this type of siding before, but this time I had seen a video of someone using these Gecko clamps to hold the siding. I have to say, they're pretty great. When we've done this process before, we made a homemade spacer block to get the spacing between the siding pieces consistent. The problem is, holding the spacer and holding the siding in place with 2 people, and then also having to nail it in place, inevitably something would slip. These clamps basically clamp onto a prior row and hold the next piece in place by themselves. This part of the process went from being stressful to what would be relaxing if not for the massive heat wave. It got so hot that my camera actually shut off. So that's where we are. One wall is done, one wall is a little over half done, and the other 2 walls are less done. We stopped here on the back wall to install the bathroom window. That's the next planned tiny house video. Assuming that goes well, I'll build a new frame for the back door, and then we can finish up the back of the house. That would mean being halfway done on the outside. The house still looks a little sad from the front, but if you stand on this corner, it's starting to look like a real house. close out, here's some fun footage of our section of the Eastern Shore.